Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Bob Yancey story. World War II, Korea, and now he is sent to Vietnam. After he completes extensive training as a combat medic. This video will provide you with an insight into what it was like to fight an enemy in a war where there was no front line. You will see Bob handling racial difficulties and caring for the wounded. It's a heroic story told by a hands-on guy. Watch now as the interview continues. It is conducted by the historian, Mike Panarella.
Vietnam, which is basically 15, 20 years after your being in Korea. How did the military change for an African American in between Korea and Vietnam?
Well, the change started taking place under the President Truman executive order. However, a lot of units in the South didn't want to comply. So what the Department of the Army said, well, if it's off limits to blacks, it's off limits to whites. Therefore, it became an economical problem. Cash registers weren't ringing up. So they said, hey, come on in.
You were retrained, and in Vietnam you were a combat medic?
Yes, because I got frostbites and everything from the Korean War, and therefore I couldn't stay in what they call a picket fence. I was in total physical with all ones. So they sent me down to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, and I was a senior non-commissioned officer, so I was the E7, so I had to go for 2 years for training. Then I wound up as an instructor down there for 3 years.
Now, you were talking about something prior to, about the Martin Luther King pointing out an obvious fact that has bothered many people over the years.
Well, yeah, because while he was talking about the Martin Luther King said that the American population consists of 12% of African Americans, but yet there were 34% was dying in Vietnam. Well, this created a great problem because people started rioting and so forth. And in Saigon, they had a lot of African American in the stockade there. In fact, when they used to come, they come out to my training, out to my dispensary for treatment. I had to wear 2 guns. But I tell them, hey, I run this place here. You don't come in here and raid all that hell, because a lot of them be on. A lot of guys was on drugs and so forth, right, coming out of the field. Hey, and he's not taking over this. Right. I tell them, well, number one, you're a soldier. Act like one. Hey, act like a damn soldier. That's what you're trained for. And don't come in here like it. If you want my treatment, yeah. I ran a medical facility. Right. I had 12 doctors and 85 technicians. So I'm not going to tolerate it.
Now, Vietnam. And we were talking about how the Vietnam veteran came back. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the healing of the Vietnam veteran, and to the point where many children and students, many kids have a hard time understanding why Vietnam veterans were treated badly.
Well, and the reason being is because, we're trained differently. Okay, we love kids. Right. I don't care what nationality they are. You try to help them. In Vietnam, you're giving the kids some candy out of your rations, and cookies and all out of your ration here, and here's another little kid in the back. You're trying to put a hand grenade in your gas tank. Mm-hmm. A kid will only do what an adult tells him to do. You can't blame that kid, mm-hmm, but you know yourself that hey, I got to survive. I got to go home. I got a family. You see what I'm saying? So a kid get messed up in the process, all because the adults are forcing him to do something that he knows right enough for him to do. And that's the reason why, through that misunderstanding, is the reason why they come home and say, well, hey, he's a baby killer. He said he killed kids and all. And all because they put the kids out front.
A combat memory. Can you explain it's going to stay with you forever and why? Can you explain in detail?
I think when I was in Vietnam, and I had to go to 5 miles down the road to this to the ammunition depot that blew up, and I could hear the yelling and the hollering and so forth. And when I pulled in there, the colonel says to me, "How did you make it?" I said, "I don't know, sir, but we're here." The colonel said, "I want you to sit up in that Quonset hut over there." I said, "I don't want to sit up in that Quonset hut. I got to go underground." A half hour later, where he told me to sit up blue sky high. But my job is always to take care of the patient, make sure he's in a secure place. And if you abide by your training and so forth, hey, and I told I had to get some guys back down the road, and I put them on a 3/4 ton truck, and I shot them with morphine and put tourniquets on them and so forth. And I had the colonel said, "You can't go back down that road." I said, "Sir, I'm a senior medic here. I assume all responsibility." I didn't know the chaplain was there. The chaplain leaned over my shoulder and he said, "You're doing a hell of a job. Right. Don't let nobody stop you." Told the guy, "Get the hell down the road like I told you." Right. Hey, so anyway, to make a long story short, they gave me all kind of reward because I never lost a patient. I got every last one of them out of there. Hey, and I never forget how them guys looked at me. Hey.
How was that to see an American soldier wounded? I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like, seeing those kids,
yeah,
all torn up, and you coming up to help them? What was that like?
I felt dynamic. I felt that, I had that power to alleviate their pain, to get them to settle down, and to assure them you got it made. You understand me? You're going home. We're going to still be here. And you're trying to inspire them to change their thinking and not to think it's all over. Right. It's just the beginning. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. The amazing thing, and speaking as maybe one who would have reacted differently, you kept your dedication, you kept your patriotism, you kept your eye on the prize, and you just said, "Well, I'm just going to keep working hard," and that in itself is commemorative, right?
What happened was that, Benjamin L. Davis was the first black general in the Army. His son, Lieutenant General Davis, who was in charge of the Tuskegee Airmen, Willie Williams, and it was these people there that inspired me and to hang in there, because I know they had to go through the same thing I went through, or am I going through, and yet they were strong enough to hold in there and reach their goals or objectives, and that's what inspired me.
No one knows how many men lived and functioned because of medical corpsmen like Bob Yancey, men and women who risked their lives to move the wounded from the battlefield and onward to life and limb-saving care in field hospitals and then in hospitals in the States. I've had some experience in aeromedical evacuation, and I have seen these people at work. It's inspiring. Bob Yancey was a remarkable man. He retired from the Army shortly after his return from Vietnam. A career that spanned participation in 3 major wars. In episode 4, Bob will relate a series of civilian accomplishments that equal the brilliance of his military career. Tune in next week to learn about his activities as an educator, providing care for the homeless veterans and for those struggling with PTSD, and his remarkable success as a veterans legislative advocate. You will be impressed. And now, I'm going to ask you to go to www.afhmus to make a donation to support these living history videos. Frankly, the amount that you give, large or small, it really doesn't matter. Although I think I would personally favor a large donation over a small one. Making a donation, that's what counts. It's your way to show that you value these looks into the military history of those people who were friends of neighbors and who actually lived it. So given that, See you next week.